Okay, so let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how a 10% price jump for gas feels like this gut punch you just have to take, but a 10% hike on your favorite cereal has you instantly looking for another brand? Well, the answer to that puzzle is a super powerful idea in economics called elasticity, and believe it or not, it's secretly guiding almost every single purchase you make.
It is a weird thing, isn't it? Some price changes, we just kind of absorb them. Maybe we grumble a bit, but we pay. Others send us scrambling for a plan B right away. So what makes the difference? That is the big question we're going to unpack right here in this explainer.
The official term for this is elasticity of demand. Now, you can see the formal definition here, but let's make it way simpler. Think of demand like a rubber band. For some products, that demand is super stretchy. A little pull on the price causes a huge change in how much people buy. But for other products, it's really stiff. The price can move all over the place, but demand barely even budges.
All right, let's dive in. Economists have actually broken this whole idea down into 5 different categories. It's like a full spectrum of how demand can react. And we're going to walk through every single one, from one extreme all the way to the other.
So first up, we have the most rigid, the most inflexible category of them all, perfectly inelastic demand. In our analogy, this rubber band is basically made of steel. It doesn't stretch at all.
Just take a look at this graph. It's a perfectly straight, vertical line. What that means is, no matter how much the price goes up or down, the amount people demand stays exactly the same. The classic example here is a life-saving medicine. I mean, if you absolutely need it to survive, the price is almost irrelevant, right? Now, this is a pretty rare theoretical extreme, but it's the perfect place to start to understand the whole spectrum.
Okay, let's move on to something much more common. This is something you definitely deal with every single week. It's called relatively inelastic demand. You can see the demand curve here is really steep. That's showing us that even a big price increase only causes a small drop in demand. This is the world of necessities. We're talking about the gasoline you need to get to work or the basic groceries for your family. You might complain about the price, you might try to cut back a little bit, but at the end of the day, you still have to buy them. The demand is stiff.
Now, smack dab in the middle of our spectrum, we hit the perfect balancing point, unitary elastic demand. This is where the reaction perfectly mirrors the action. As you can see, if the price drops by 10%, the demand goes up by, you guessed it, exactly 10%. It's a perfect one-to-one relationship. You know, it's probably pretty rare to find a product that behaves exactly like this all the time, but it's the critical dividing line between what we consider inelastic and what we consider elastic. Okay, now we're getting into the really stretchy stuff. With relatively elastic demand, consumers are super sensitive to price. This is where we as shoppers really have the power. And look at how much flatter this demand curve is. That tells you that a tiny little change in price can trigger a massive shift in how much people want to buy. This is super calming for things that have lots of substitutes, like our cereal example, or for non-essentials, like going out to eat, buying new gadgets, or any kind of luxury good. A small price jump is all it takes for us to say, you know what, I'll find something else, or I'll just wait. And finally, we've arrived at the other theoretical extreme. This is perfectly elastic demand, the most responsive, most sensitive situation you can possibly imagine. So here, the demand curve is a totally horizontal line. And this is a fascinating idea, a bit of a mind bender, really. It says that at one very specific price, consumers will buy as much as they can possibly get. But if the seller raises that price by even one single penny, demand instantly craters to zero. Now, you're not going to see this at your local supermarket, but it's a really important concept for economic models that explore markets with what they call perfect competition.
So we've just walked through the 5 degrees of elasticity. But that kind of leaves a big question, right? Why are some products' demand so stretchy while others are so stiff? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the key factors that actually decide this. It really all boils down to just a few simple questions. First, how many substitutes are there? The more options you have, the more elastic demand. Next, is it a necessity you can't live without? Or is it a luxury you can? Well, necessities are inelastic. Luxuries are elastic. How about this? Does it take up a big chunk of your budget? If it does, you're going to be way more sensitive to price changes. And finally, can you just put off buying it? If you can easily postpone that purchase, demand is going to be way more elastic.
This slide just sums it all up perfectly, side by side. Inelastic goods, those stiff ones, like salt or essential medicine, they have very few substitutes, they're necessities, and it's tough to postpone buying them. Elastic goods, the stretchy ones, like a new TV or a designer handbag, are the total opposite. They've got tons of alternatives, they're luxuries, and you can absolutely decide to buy them later.
Now, we've been focused almost entirely on price so far, but it's really important to know that elasticity is a much bigger concept. It can also measure how our demand changes based on our income, or even based on the prices of totally different goods.
So for example, income elasticity looks at how our spending habits change when our paycheck changes. When we earn more money, we tend to buy more of what are called normal goods. Things like vacations or better cuts of meat. But for inferior goods, say instant noodles, we might actually buy less as we get richer because suddenly we can afford other things. And then there's cross-elasticity, which is cool because it helps us see how different products are related. If the price of Coke goes up, what happens? Well, demand for Pepsi will probably increase because they're substitutes. But on the other hand, if the price of hot dogs goes up, demand for hot dog buns might actually go down because they're complements. You almost always buy them together. Okay, so this has all been really interesting economic theory, but why should a business owner or marketing team actually care? The answer is simple, because understanding elasticity is the absolute key to making smart pricing decisions that can literally make or break a company.
This table right here, this is where the rubber meets the road. It reveals the crucial link between elasticity and a company's total revenue. Think about it. For an inelastic product, like gasoline, a price increase will probably lead to higher total revenue because most of us have to buy it no matter what. But for an elastic product, like movie tickets, that same price increase could be a total disaster. People would just find other ways to entertain themselves, and total revenue would fall off a cliff. But for that same movie theater, a price cut might bring in so many new people that their total revenue actually goes up.
So here it is, the bottom line. Knowing your product's elasticity isn't just some academic exercise. It is the fundamental piece of information you need to decide whether to raise or lower your prices to make the most money. It's truly a billion-dollar question. And that brings this whole idea right back to you. The next time you're out shopping, just take a second and think like an economist. Look at the items in your cart. Which ones would you still buy if the price doubled tomorrow? And which ones would you put back on the shelf without a second thought? The answer to that tells you everything you need to know about the power of elasticity in your own life.